好，同学们，我们伟大来的，我们是中国现在 China now. Friend or foe, war or peace? Tough question these days, given what's going on in the Middle East with respect to our contention over the nation of Iran. We're on one side, the China is on the other side. And of course, Iran is in the middle. And so it's a tough world we live in right now, but there it is. So this in this segment of China now, we'd like to pick up two stories, two embodied by two questions, and we'll start it off with this one: Is the hardening off of China's economy by the CCP a preparation for the invasion of Taiwan? I should have said, is the apparent hardening off of China's economy by the CCP. So, are you familiar, Nancy, with the expression hardening off?
Hmm.
So it's what you're doing is you're making something stand up to the environment by itself, taking it out of the greenhouse and putting it into the garden, as it were. And it appears to me that China's economy is being hardened off um, in preparation for what? So this is what I see happening. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I see an unemployment rate of the young and casual labor going through the roof throughout the nation. I see people unable to withdraw their own money from banks. I see rural banks folding en masse. I see farmers unable to sell food in cities, and likewise fishermen unable to sell their seafood. So it seems to me like the general economy of China is just being constricted as if one were trying to strangle somebody. And so I wonder why. Is it because Xi Jinping wants to harden off his population and the economy so that when he does invade Taiwan and the bleep really does hit the fan, people will be able to survive?
First of all, China has been preparing to invade Taiwan. That's no question. But that really have nothing to do with current situation of in economy. They've been doing the preparation in I think it's in the regular pace as their daily work. Now, now the current situation in the economy is just because the China's economy are going down. It's like a free fall ever since 2023, right? China's
So you
economy,
you don't you don't think there's a hardening off going on. You just think it's a collapse happening.
yeah, the collapse. They're not to the point that really see it. The long term goal is they're going to invade Taiwan, and then the not the opportunity, but the timing they are going to choose to invade Taiwan, very likely, when it will come when the regime feel its ruling power is threatened by by its own people. But however, they're not to that point yet. That they're not to the point that they have to invade Taiwan. Now, first of all, their military generals are all purged.
But wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you suggesting that the the invasion of the Taiwan is not so much something Xi Jinping wants for the future of China, but rather it's something that he will need to suppress a rebellion in the population?
It's true. when it comes to the point that the domestic force that's against the Chinese Communist Party grow to a certain, strong point. It goes to they're out of control. They feel they probably will. They will. My own estimate it's when the Chinese Communist regime when they need excuse for to trigger the martial law. That will be the time they going to start invade Taiwan because once they're in military operation, they can trigger the martial law. Um,
So
especially when
everybody, they'll, in essence, that will lock down everybody who's already in jail.
right now, but they're not to that point yet. Economic collapse. Even though you use the word collapse, it's a big word, but think about how many years going to be in the road to really affecting the ruling power
Uh,
of a regime. Take a look at Cuba. Cuba is right our next door neighbor, and then how many years they have the ruling power of the Cuba's Communist Party has been sustained their ruling power after their economic collapse, right? So that's a long road. So we're not to that point yet. And plus, I think that it's not the invasion of Taiwan is not going to be on the front burner for Xi Jinping because his priority right now is to make sure that he is going to continue his 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 top position
in
on
the
next
CCP.
year's uh next year's CCP's national conference. That's the 21st national Chinese Communist Party's national conference. So that's how he's going to get his next 5 year term, right? So now we have a last term. Last time it was like 2022, So next year will be 2027. It's the end of his the current term, and then he need to make sure he continue on he, that his dictatorship. So I think that he still have a lot of work to do to, after he purged so many military generals, he still have a lot of work to promote a bunch of people. And this time, because he really has the power now, so he's going to really try to pick and promote those ones, really loyal to him. That's his work. He's probably going to make a lot of new, promote and assign a lot of new military leaders, generals,
He has
and
a lot of vacancies to fill.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of vacancies, right? So I think from now to probably to the middle of next year, because it's just like 2 weeks ago that the Chinese Communist newspaper they publish they publish we talk about that a little bit, right? Xi Jinping had a high-ranking military official training class nationwide through the whole military, and then but however, that's a news report. But however, the Chinese military daily newspaper say they are trying. It's a movement that going to shake up the military forces uh the behavior. So
Ah,
right. So
have you heard about Operation Golden Sword? Now being conducted by the CCP, in which it's conducting a general audit of its defense forces.
I haven't read that piece yet.
Okay, I I think it's real. I've seen several reports on it, but I don't know if it is real or not.
Yeah,
But
well, but the training class was real, that was reported by the
there-
state media that Xi Jinping has all the division commander up, division com when it comes to division commander, that's the lowest position that's being considered as the high-ranking military
right,
official in Chinese military. So he had all the main, he had a this training class. It's not in the classroom, it's online. So every theater, and everywhere, it doesn't matter where you are, all the high-ranking military officials from division commander level up, they're going to join. They are required to participate, and then Xi Jinping has an online an opening for that. So they're going to they say the state news and military daily newspapers say that's going to shake up the military behavior. So now, usually, this thing is going to last. It depending on, depending on how bad the situation is. The first 1942 to 1945 in Yan'an, they have this kind of shake-up behavior in to to all the Chinese Communist Party members for that lasted for 3 years actually. Now, I wouldn't say they're in this kind of a situation. So probably I would say the military, this kind of a movement is going to last a year, and then they will basically, and the last part of this usually is the hardest part that they're going to find the people, they're going to punish those people that doesn't show loyalty, and then they are going to of course promote the people that are loyal to Xi Jinping, and so I would say they're probably going to finish this thing by the middle of next year, and then they promote a bunch of new generals, and then it will be ready for the next CCP's national part conference will be probably October, maybe November of next year. To elect the new Secretary General, right? And Xi
now,
Jinping.
can you imagine anybody in that assembly not raising their hand when Xi Jinping's name is placed in nomination?
Probably not. I don't think anybody is going to, not supporting that. But however, uh, you still see this thing going on, which means Xi Jinping is still making effort to make sure the absolute loyalty of the military, right?
Right.
Which means that he doesn't have the absolute loyalty yet
Yeah.
on by this point, right? Although he's still, you know, in full control of the CCP, but the loyalty level he wants it's much higher.
So,
So he's still doing that. So I don't think they're ready. Although although I keep saying and saying again, from 2026 to 2030, that 5 years is the most dangerous time window
yeah.
that we probably going to have a war in the Western Pacific. But I don't think technically he's ready yet, and I don't think he prioritized the invasion of Taiwan currently. Maybe after he actually had after he make sure his third term that take place that maybe at the end of next year. After that, maybe he if actually the challenge facing the CCP after the end of next year grows so big, then they probably will thinking of doing that.
Wow. Now, I've heard that Xi has his wife installed in a very important position with respect to determining who the next military officers are, who who is going to be Xi Jinping's next general staff. I understand Peng Li Yuan is in charge of that.
Yeah, she's a part of the process, making decisions who to promote. But of course, once she's in charge, well, they say she's a part of the process. But of course, but they don't say she's in charge of that. But of course, once she's there, guess who is in charge? Of course, that's she, right?
Yeah. So that's something that they all have to come to grips with.
Yeah, but
So,
when it comes to the important assignment of the personnel, of course, Xi Jinping, it's the one, right? And also, Peng Liyuan's participation is to make sure that in the process, the process is flawless for Xi Jinping, right?
yeah, no bad bugs in the soup. So that's what her job is going to be. As I look at the Chinese economy, it seems as though it being a centralized economy run by one person, that one person seems to be doing everything wrong because it seems to
Well,
be that
you're you-
everything's
you're
falling
you're
apart.
thinking it's doing everything wrong. It's because you have this market economy mind, right?
Right.
They're not thinking they're doing any. They think they're doing everything right, all right? And then and also think
By
about
making
this,
everything wrong.
right?
Well, so that's his decisions on the economy are seem to be fouling up everything. Now I look at that and think, boy, the guy's crazy. He's making a mess of everything. But that you're saying that I'm seeing it through the wrong glasses.
Yes,
I need to look at it through the eyes of somebody who is ardently involved with the Chinese Communist Party to see that no, he's not doing it wrong. He's doing it right because
right.
we are
Because
in charge and there's nothing to threaten us.
that's right. Everything he does, it's really to make sure that the CCP will continue to rule. China. That's what they're trying to do. Uh, so from that angle, they I think they will carry economy one, a lot later. So right now they think that the 40 years of uh, market economy in China, it's doing bad things to the ruling power of the CCP. So they try to fix that part.
And I guess a
Now,
good example of that would be what they did to Jack Ma and the Ant Group.
yes, well,
Yeah,
see, Jack Ma is also a part of that. They are trying to reach out to him, right, to have him going back. There you go. That's another United Front work. See,
because
so
he had such tremendous influence with people in the United States, he would be a very,
Well, I don't think they actually want the Jack Ma's influence in the United States. They want to limit his influence in the United States. I think it's the technology, a stay wrong technological innovation is just doesn't work that well. So they want so all these private big business, they are the ones behind the engine of China's innovation or technological
isn't that
innovation.
pretty much true with all socialist economies? As you look around the world at socialist economies, you see an economy that's under the thumb or the total control of a central authority who does not want to see anybody taking any initiative and therefore people don't take any initiative and they hide out.
Right.
And
They don't have that kind of a spirit, free spirit environment, right? All the best innovation always comes with some sort of personal inspiration and freedom. You don't have that, people, it's just very hard to come. Um, so that's why they will still need these kind of people. Uh, the communist regime is very smart. They figure out what they need. They will have these people work for them, right? Now, so that's
they become in effect an oligarch of the regime, right?
right. So they have total control of these people. Now, I think that going back, I think that the priority of Xi Jinping right now from this year and next year is to make sure he can continue his position, his party secretary general position, by the end of next year. To go into the next term and go into his fourth term. And after he secured that, I think that we're going to see a lot more dangerous situation to take place in Taiwan Strait.
Kind of like the Franklin Delano Roosevelt of China, because 4 terms, but everybody else can only have 2 terms.
Well,
Now,
he's going to be there's no term limit. There's a never going there have never been a term limit for the party secretary general position. Never in the entire
ah,
history, right? So they used to have a term limit for the national chairman position, or the Western countries, Western media call them the president position. But the problem is they didn't realize the president in China is not the highest position. The highest position is the CCP party secretary general. That's the one in charge, right? So,
the chief warden,
yeah. So he want to make sure, of course, once he continue his party secretary general position into the fourth term, then the national chairman, it's automatic, right? It's automatic. And then the military central committee chairman, it's also automatic. That's three position always, in one person's hand. So that's how I think that what Xi Jinping is working on right now. And after that,
once he gains that fourth
yeah,
election,
we were probably talking about that. So you think about that 1942, the last this kind of a shaking behavior movement that well there are three of them, right? Xi Jinping is on the third of them. The second one of them is the anti-rightist movement.
right?
Uh, you
Explain
know,
that really quickly.
Yeah, it's in the between 1950 eight to 1961. They first have this 100 flower movement. They ask everybody
Oh,
to say
let
to,
100 blossoms bloom,
yeah.
and we want to hear what you have to think. So
Yeah.
please let us know what you have to think and what happened when people let them know what they had to think.
Right. And then they have this, then it becomes this like a shaking up the behavior movement, right? It's the anti-rightist movement. So they basically, everybody who had an opinion against the Communist Party sent to behind the bars, right? Now and then the first one is between 1942 and 1945. By 1945, it was the Second World War II that broke up in China between CCP and KMT. Now, 42 to 45, while the KMT government in China was fighting against the Japanese in World War II. Chairman Mao lead this shaking up the behavior movement in Yan'an, and in the northern western part of China. So that's their headquarters, the CCP headquarters. So they basically also similar. They have these like 100 flower blossom, that kind of things. They could encourage you to say something, and then they will basically find those people not loyal to the CCP. They basically kill them or send them behind the bars or wherever, make them disappear. And then in once they finish that, once it's very important. Once they finish that in 1945, they start the second civil war against the government in China. That's the KMT government. And then and then 45 to 49, 4 years of civil war, they throw out the KMT government.
Wow. Okay, with that, we're going to take a quick break. This is China Now. Nansu and Michael Olson. We have question number 2 when we come back from the break. And that question is, what will happen to China if the Iran regime is overthrown? Do stay tuned. We will be right back.
Save money on airfare to anywhere. Low Cost Air is the discount supermarket for all domestic and foreign airlines. A funny thing is going to happen when you call Low Cost Air. You're going to talk to a human being within 60 seconds. Save money on airfare to anywhere. Call Low Cost Air to compare at 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662.
Your fence, wood fence, livestock, chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
My name is Stephen Digger. My wife and I live in Royal Oak. When my wife and I were looking to find someone to build our fence, Cypress Coast Fence was highly recommended. It was amazing. These folks are masters at their craft. They're super professional. They came in when they said they were going to come in. They finished when they said they were going to finish. The fence is perfect for our needs. Everything they said it was going to be, and then some.
Give us a call for your no obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock, chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
Woman with a LiDAR. Question number 2 for the second hour of China Now. What would happen to China if the Iran regime is overthrown? Lots of very, very close ties there. The first thing I wonder about Nansu is the impact of the Chinese population seeing the overthrow of the Republican guards and the taking and the dismantling of the theocracy and the freeing of the people. How would that impact the citizens of China?
Said again, you mean that
So if the Iran regime is overthrown, if the mullahs are kicked out, if the Irish or the Iran or the Iran Republican Guard is overthrown and kicked out, and the people of Iran are set free to be Persian again, how do you think that would impact the citizenry of China?
well, Well, first of all, you will give. I'm not sure if ideologically they will do much to to the citizen of China. But however, it will greatly, for sure, weaken the Chinese Communist regime. That's for sure, because they have no energy, right? They will, that's a very important part. Uh, they need energy. China, it's not oil, it's not energy efficient, and they needed some sort of energy to. They will need energy to
Mhm.
sustain, basically, right?
Yeah, to run the car, run the machinery to make things. They need the
Yeah,
energy. And they've been getting energy at greatly reduced prices by holding Iran, Venezuela hostage.
that's right. So they will need energy. So therefore, I think that's very important for the regime to keep its operation. Now, without the energy, it's just not sustainable. That's a very important part.
Yeah.
Now,
So but let me go back to the question. And the question is about the people of China, uh, who essentially are the prisoners of the CCP at this time. They are prisoners.
yeah.
Um, and what will be the impact on them if they see the Persian people being set free and the government overthrown? Do you think that will have it? Do you think it won't have an impact on them?
Well, I think you will have a certain impact to them. That's for sure. Uh, but I'm not sure, if you're talking about what it's not going to be something like
Well,
it
I was just wondering, might it not precipitate a rebellion that would cause the CCP to institute martial law and invade Taiwan?
the well that's different, right? Try to reform your question a little bit.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. Um, I'm thinking about the people of Iran being set free by the overthrow of the mullahs and their theocracy, by the overthrow of the uh, IRGC, and the people being able to be citizens of Iran, be Persian people again. And I'm trying to imagine the impact of that on the Chinese people themselves. And to see your neighbor set free of the tyrant, to see your neighbors be free while you are in chains still, while you're not able to go to the bank and withdraw your own money. And I have a sneaking suspicion it would have a pretty profound impact on the people of China.
Uh, yeah, well, Iran, it's a little different than, from I would say, from the ideological point of view. So, how do you going to culturally, um, kind of like the collapse of Iranian regime? Sure, there will be a lot of people looking at as a defeat of the Chinese of the communist regime, because Iranian, it's their ally, right? So Iranian regime is the alliance of communist regime. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, but to certain I don't know. There will be an impact, but the impact it's hard to say it's going to be a lot.
Okay, that's fair enough. I just think you're probably right, because the CCP is in such total control of the Chinese people that I don't know what they can do short of complete rebellion, because the Chinese of the total control exerted by the Chinese Communist Party. They know exactly what you're thinking by virtue of your cell phones. They know what you eat and where you drink and where you sleep, and they know everything about you. And so all they have to do is turn off your cell phone, and you're pretty much in deep trouble because you can't buy food then, and so on. I don't know what impact it would have other than to let them know that there is a possibility of freedom for them. Whether they can realize that or not, that remains to be seen. I just think it will be a big deal. You also mentioned it will have a big impact on the CCP itself because they've been living on cheap oil, by virtue of their control of Iran and Venezuela. What happens when that cheap oil goes away?
I think that once we control the energy, if providing if Iran regime there was a regime change, and or at least we can keep the control to certain extent control the resource of communist regime. Um, I think that will greatly reduce the dangerous situation in the Taiwan Strait. Because without how they're going to do, if they don't even have enough energy to, how they're going to do the military operation,
Yeah,
right?
you need fuel to float the boats.
So, I think that's good. Um, the the problem is uh it's Iranian regime. It's just not enough to basically uh topple the communist regime. So
I
we'll
agree
see.
with you there. I agree with you there. But I
Yeah.
do think that it will have an impact on China if the Iran regime is overthrown simply by virtue of the cheap oil that it will no longer have. And so that's one thing on the column there that's going to cost them a lot. And what about China's effort to de-dollarize the world economy through the oil economy? There's indications that that isn't working so well for them. For example, Russia just made note of the fact that they were thinking about going back onto the dollar standard for oil, for their oil. And that would, as China's been buying a lot of oil from Russia based on yuan. And if Russia backs away from that, that'll have a big impact on China's effort to get rid of the dollar standard in international trade and commerce.
Yeah, we'll see. All that will it's just they're just talking, right?
I was
And-
just talking right now, but that's interesting talk.
right now, yeah, I'm not sure if you realize that the Chinese yen, they have a momentum right now. They're the exchange rate from Chinese yen to the U.S. Has been increased recently by a
Mhm.
lot.
Well, a lot of people said that the Iran war would further the valuation of the yuan and diminish the dollar's hold on the world's oil markets. A lot of people were betting that would happen, but it doesn't appear to be happening as we
No,
move
I don't
along.
think it's going to happen as the operation in Iran keep going, right? So, but however, the exchange rate of between yen and the exchange rate between yen and dollar, it's for different reason. Um, it's for the reason because uh, China, it's because first of all, China it's in the deflation. China is in the deflation, and therefore,
Things cost less.
yeah, things cost less. They import, they import less,
Yeah.
right? They import less, and
So it's cheaper to buy their goods.
they import less. Then, therefore, that what happened is so they're all these Chinese companies once they export things, after they export things, then and also because the United States dollar, it's we have this bad government debt situation, so therefore and also because the relationship right now it's hardening between United States and
Right.
China. So therefore they basically figure out it's time to basically once they sell their exports here in the United States, it's better for them to bring the money home.
There it is. Well, okay, then with respect to China's effort to capture the world via its Belt and Road Initiative, Iran plays a significant part in that Belt and Road Initiative. If um, if the regime in Iran is overthrown, China is going to be, who's going to pay China back for all the Belt and Road money that it lent to Iran? So that's going to be, uh, it's like the person that you loan all your money to all of a sudden is bankrupt. What are you going to do? Furthermore, how would an overthrow of China's Belt and Road node, as is Iran, how about the failure of that node? What impact would that have on the rest of the Belt and Road nations around the world, who also are debt slaves to the CCP now?
Well, Belt and Road Initiative, it's a total failure, right?
Yes.
Uh, it
And you
doesn't.
have all of these nations who have things built that nobody's really using and then aren't making a return on the investment. And these countries owe China a lot of money. And what would happen to those nations' willingness to pay the money back if they see Iran failing and just going belly up and having to start over and all of that money that it owes China? So there's a lot of money in the world that is owed China that is in danger of the collapse of the Belt and Road Initiative. It is a failure. Everybody knows it is. Now what?
Well, that basically just means is that CCP in the future they will have a lot less influence to the world. Um, you know, so I think it's good that to and then they have less economic power actually to influence the world. Uh, but that it's not really uh, because the collapse of Iranian regime. That's just basically because China's economic model total failed.
Yeah.
So I think that really, I think that it will basically the fail of Iran will make China a lot less influence, and also will basically make this will basically also make this uh, Eurasian continental power formed by Chinese Communist regime, Russian regime, Iranian regime, and North Korea regime a lot weaker. I think that's a good. Uh, the collapse of Iranian regime will also make uh, a lot of little red in China become less confident about because it's a big part of the regime's propaganda try to project to the minds of these little red people. Little red means they're pro the
Little
Chinese
princes, yeah.
pro CCP, right? So it's important for them to influence these young people with the image how strong the Chinese communist regime and how China can support all these Iranian regime and Russian regime and North Korea regime because they are the big brother of this alliance, right? So the collapse of the Iranian regime will, make the confidence of this little red, basically the support of communist regime, weakened inside China. Um, I think that's it. We are see that we are counting on a long-term economic. If we are counting on the long-term economic competition to weaken the regime until its collapse, we have a long way to go. I wouldn't really put a lot of hope on the collapse of a regime, how much it's going to impact China. Um, I don't give a lot of those kind of. I think that those are just a fake hope.
Okay, fair enough. One more item to throw on the fire, though. Uh, China, as we were talking about earlier, or Iran has a lot of ways around the sanctions placed on it by the United States, and one of them is the train. China's train that goes through Iran all the way into Europe. And what happens if China loses that railroad? That would make it even more reliant on the seagoing trade or the pipeline from Russia.
Yes. Uh, I would say this. That's going to hurt China's economy and Belt and Road Initiative. It will do all that.
But it
Um,
will not do away with the Chinese Communist Party.
that's right. It's just not enough yet to do that.
Okay. So, um, as I look at Trump's taking on Iran in this police action or war or whatever you want to call it, it appears to me he's also taking on at the same time China.
Yes, energy is a great thing. It's huge, right? China, it's not energy independent, and to take down, if we are able to, if we are able to, which means, Trump better make his decision very quick. Time is on, it's not on his side. So, if we are able to make a regime change in Iran, uh, that will in that will greatly, to that will do great to for Trump to defend the global peace. That's what he does. Uh, if we can keep the peace, we will have time to industrialize the United States. We will have time to do long-term economic competition with Chinese Communist regime. I don't think they will win. I have a full confidence on the United States free market economy system. And as long as we can keep the peace for 5 or 10 years, and then keep the current China policy, which is moving in the right direction, I think eventually we're going to win. So that's what it is. It's a long time. It's a long term goal. I wouldn't, expect it's going to impact China, in the near term. But I think, but it's a great step towards to the final winning uh, uh, of United States, and also it's a great step to towards to the collapse of Chinese Communist regime. But it's a long term. It's a long term. It wouldn't be any, anything if you're expecting there was something going to happen in the near future. That's just not. I don't think I don't have that kind of
You know,
wishful
in
thinking.
in listening to your presentation today, Nansu, I get to wondering what percentage of the American population realizes or is cognizant of the fact that we are at war with China.
We
And
are, well, it's not that we are in war with China. I wouldn't say that. I think, China has been in war against the United States in the Western world, especially the United States, ever since the mid 90s. So
yes,
we are right now finally wake up to realize that fact. So we are, uh,
that's what I'm getting at. How
yeah,
much of us are waking up to the fact that we are at war? I think if more of us actually realized that we are at war, then it might behoove our fight against the totalitarianism. At any rate, that was number 248 of China Now with Nan Su and Michael Olson. We want to thank all of you for tuning in today. And it's a very big time for us. So watch what happens with President Donald Trump. Will he or won't he go to Beijing to visit with Xi Jinping? Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Nansu. Great show today.